Hello folks, welcome to part 2. I forgot to do something, so I backtracked a little. So it's going to take some extra time. This is that team I thought I was stuck on last time. We forgot to go to the dwarves, get some extra money. So we need all the money we can get for now, so that we can get some better weapons, and of course all the magic we can get. Especially the shield spell will help. Now, as you can see, this party here, we're now fighting. It'd be impossible to win, right? But that's soon going to be coming up. So the first part wasn't that hard, but this lack of damage. Well, we'll see how everything goes. In case you're wondering why the game is so fast, my emulator called GNES. It has a option to frame skip, effectively making the game twice as fast. Now, Final Fantasy Ultra Champion Edition also has a lot of frames cut out, mostly battle animations. So let's do this one. Or maybe not. These wolves are a bit easier now. Yeah, we'll finish them up. So yeah, even if you play the game on normal mode, without frame skipping done by your emulator, the game is still roughly 20% faster than normal because of so many animations cut out. As you can see, the characters don't move that much to the front. They don't move that much forward when attacking and casting spells and getting commands. The little explosion when enemies are hit is also shorter. So, you know, might as well show you, right? Here's the game on normal speed. And you have music. See, it's still a bit faster. And I really see no value in keeping the original speeds. If I ever make a hyper fighting version of this game, then I'll try to cut out even more animation. One thing I want to get rid of is this animation, pressing start. I mean, it's okay with the sped up emulator, but when I play on my telephone, for example, it really bothers me. Every time I press start, I have to wait a second. So I'd like to improve that. Also, when entering towns, there's this little animation. Yeah, this thing. It's unnecessary. It goes pretty fast with the emulator, but again, on my phone. Oh, our first death. The fool's back to life. The churches here only cost 1 gold, because I don't see any reason to add any injury to insult. It's bad enough that you have to go back to town, get somebody back to life. So, while we try to run away, we'll talk about the name of this game. Why is it Champion Edition? The funny thing is, when I started recording the original video, I said Championship Edition, harking back to well, what I seem to have grown up with. You see, there are. I grew up in another dimension, and that is basically the dimension where they call Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition. They call it actually Championship Edition. Now I live in a universe where it's excuse me. Oh, I had dry throat all of a sudden. Now, do I need to heal up? I don't know what to do. I need to get weapons. That's the most important. Let's get. I'm buying all the weapons because damage is so slow here. I'll give a fool that. mistake. Here we go. You can keep the wooden one. Actually, I think that the priest will soon get double hits, so let's give. Okay. Alright, and sell some things. Not much, but. That should be it, right? Yep. I don't really need armor, so now time for spells. There you go. He has the heal spell. Oh, purge will be nice. Yeah, I have enough money to go do that. And shields, and also slow. Priest getting healed. Good. So, I used to be really into fighting games, especially Street Fighter, but also Guilty Gear, and I was pretty good at Virtual Fighter, even though I didn't enjoy it that much. I just won games, but yeah, Capcom vs. SNK2 was one of my favorites. And what I mostly talked about with my friends before I got into the tournament scene was Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition, at least that's what we called it. That was kind of like the arcade version of what we had at home. At home we had Street Fighter 2 The World Warrior, the original Street Fighter 2. We had it on Super Nintendo. It was a very good conversion. Very little differences with the arcade. And we were happy because it had 8 characters, which is quite a lot. And on the Super Nintendo, if you pressed a certain code, which you always have to press in, but just didn't, you could fight mirror matches. So everybody could choose Ryu. I was not much of a Ryu player at the time, and well, that's a long story. I've never liked Shotokens. I was more of a Guile and later on a Zangief kind of guy. So, yeah, we could play against each other with the same character on the Super Nintendo with a code, but the arcades had a version called Championship Edition, and you could play as the bosses. That was pretty exciting. There were Game Genie codes to play the bosses, but that didn't really work the way we wanted to. It was like, you had the sprite of Balrog, but you were doing Ryu's moves, so that didn't really work. Yeah, so Championship Edition in arcades was always kind of a, occasionally popped in a quarter. Occasionally. Didn't feel that much more different than what we had at home. Because we didn't know how to play the bosses anyway, so. And eventually, there was Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition Hyper Fighting. Now, we all just called it Street Fighter 2 Turbo, but on the arcade it said Hyper Fighting. And that was the third version, and it took a while to get converted to the Super Nintendo. Now, that was a big difference, though, because that was faster. That was the biggest deal. It was twice as fast. Championship Edition, I think it was like 15% faster than what we had at home, the normal World Warrior, but I'm not sure. But Turbo was definitely faster, and that was a good enough reason, to pop up some quarters to that machine. You also had some new moves, like Chun-Li had a fireball, which wasn't really any good, but it was really cool. And, well, that was basically it. I mean, Ken had a better Shoryuken, and I recall correctly, Ken also had a slightly slower fireball, but nobody played Ken. It was always Ryu. And what else was there about Turbo? I mean, Dulzim had this dive attack, which was easier to do, but that wasn't a big difference. Mostly hyper fighting was about the speed. And then something funny happened was that Super Street Fighter 2 came out, and it looked shinier, but it didn't look better. It was on new hardware apparently, but like the CPS2, I think it was called, Was that used for Street Fighter 3? I'm not sure. I mean, Street Fighter 3 has awesome animation. Anyhow, so Super Street Fighter 2 was on new hardware, but you really couldn't see it. It was just more pastel, softer colors. Now the sound took a hit. Oh, it was such a shame. I mean, I'm gonna do my best here, but uh, yeah, I mean, the original Street Fighter 2 was round one, and when you hit somebody, it sounded like hitting a table with a wet towel. Fantastic sound. The sounds were raw, and you win. Lovely sounds. Very raw. Maybe because of Mortal Kombat. I don't know. For some reason, Super Street Fighter 2, they changed the sounds. Guys sounded nasal. It was like you win, and round one. Oh yeah, and Sonic Boom. It used to be Sonic Boom, and then it was Sonic Boom, Sonic Boom. Nah, Guy was my favorite character, but Guy, he didn't sound that manly anymore, to use that term. So we're gonna check out the Pirates Cove. Try to stick in the middle of the road because there are a lot of. Oh, I should put on a shield maybe. How many do I have? I don't know this. So, but even worse than having the bad sounds, Super Street Fighter 2 in the arcade, it slowed down. It was like back to Championship Edition speed. So at home we had Turbo, and it sounded better, and it was faster. So we didn't feel like putting quarters into the Super Street Fighter 2 cabinet. Now there were 4 new characters, and I like DJ, for example, and for a while I thought T-Hawk was pretty good, and T-Hawk actually was pretty good in Super Street Fighter 2. Come to think of it, he had very good sprites, hitboxes. So yeah, I was into playing T-Hawk a little bit. He had this big roundhouse, and Crouching Strong was also pretty good, and he had a Shoryuken. But I didn't like the game that much. And later, it was ported to the Super Nintendo with faster speed, thankfully. So we all played that for a while. Although by then, most of my friends weren't interested in Street Fighter 2 anymore. They were mostly playing Mortal Kombat. And I never, I played a lot of Mortal Kombat 2, and later 3, was bad, but it wasn't Street Fighter. Street Fighter had all this depth, and each character had completely different moves. In Mortal Kombat was just a bunch of sweeping and jumping kicks, and yeah, no, it was a sloppy game. I didn't like it that much. So one more minute to talk. And yeah, okay, let's quickly talk about why I'm talking about Street Fighter 2, because this game is called Champion Edition. Why? Well, somewhere along the way, I ended up in another universe where it's called Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition. I didn't realize that until I started making this hack. Uh, the funny thing is, some other people also came from the same dimension, because you have, for example, Pac-Man Championship Edition, and you have Guacamelee Hyper Turbo Championship Edition. So I'm not the only one making the same mistake, but trust me, if you look up Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition, you will find it. Now, I have old Edge magazines where they review Champion Edition, and it's funny because the title says, a Champion Edition, but when you read the review, it actually says Championship Edition. So that's also, 2 universes at the same time. I don't know, but if you're interested in more multiple dimension theories and where we might come from and what's going on, there's this thing about the Berenstein beers, the Berenstein beers. So it must have something to do with it. And I'm going to save it here, leave it at that, and next time we'll continue in the Champion Edition universe dimension, and try to get as much out of this cave before heading back. So see you then.